Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item 6 is for public comment periods for items not on the agenda. Are there any members of the public present that would like to comment on an item not on the agenda?
No, Chair.
Anybody on teleconference or Zoom?
No.
Okay. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from our March 7, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Does Commission have any comments or corrections?
I do not have any comments or corrections.
Okay. May I ask for a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes of Planning Commission of March 17th, 2026.
I'll second.
Okay, and we go to votes. And that passes 4-0. Good. We now move on to item 6A. That is for, sorry.
Item
8A, yes. There's a typo there. So we'll now move on to item 8A with Palm Valley Mobile. Here we have staff approach the podium, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Jordan Walton, Associate Planner with the Community Development Department, and this will be a presentation for Palm Valley Mobile, which is a conditional use permit for a ABC license. One second, we're having technical difficulties. All right, I would prefer not to have to take this presentation hunched over, but thank you, Noah. All right, as I was saying, this is for a conditional use permit for Palm Valley Mobile. The applicant and owner for this project is Ahmad Matla, and the project location is at 903 West Florida Avenue. As mentioned previously, this is an application requesting approval for a Type 20 ABC license at a convenience store and making findings of public convenience and necessity to allow for the off-sale of beer and wine at this location. The Planning Commission has the authority to approve conditional use permits within the C2 zone of the project, which this project does fall under. At the previous meeting, at the March 17th, 2026 meeting, we conducted staff prepared a presentation and a recommendation for a denial of the project. After a brief discussion with the Planning Commission, it was advised to direct staff to prepare a resolution for approval and denial of the project and bring it back to this duly notice hearing at April 7th, 2026. Here is the aerial photo of the project. This is for Palm Valley Mobile. And then here is the floor plan as well. Part of the discussion was concerning the upgrade to the existing trash enclosure. For this project, we did take a staff visit to this project, and we were able to see that the project does need a minor upgrade. And after consultation with the Public Works Department, staff evaluated and decided that in order to meet the requirements under our municipal code, that they would need a upgrade to the roof and security bars surrounding the near the top of the property to prevent from illegal dumping. And this information was relayed to the applicant, and they advised staff that they would be acceptable of this condition. For CEQA compliance, if this project is approved, this project would be exempt from the provisions of CEQA under Section 15301, existing facilities. If this project is denied, the project would still fall under the provisions of CEQA under 15270, which CEQA does not apply to projects that are not approved by the public agency. And then on March 7th, 2026, the staff gave public notice of this public meeting on the Press Enterprise and to surrounding property owners within 500 feet. And at the March 17th, 2026 meeting, the Planning Commission continued the item to a date certain to this date, which is April 7th, 2026. So. That being said, it is respectfully recommended that the Planning Commission take one of the following actions, which is approve the project subject to the resolution for approval and the conditions of approval that was crafted for this project, and to direct staff to file a notice of exemption with the county clerk for CEQA purposes. Or you can take option 2 to deny the project and adopt Planning Commission attachment number 2, which denies the project. Or option 3, which is provide staff additional input or alternative direction. And that concludes my presentation. I am available to answer any questions, and we do have the applicant in the audience today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jordan, for that presentation. Does the commission have a question for staff?
Yes. Hey, Jordan, thank you for that. I have a quick question. On the staff report, page 59, why is it that the area where this is zoned for, or the section that it's in, it almost looks like it's out of place? Why does it go all the way and like cut through half of Hemet Valley Mall and then come back? Is that just the way that it
Is this the map you're referring to? I'm sorry?
Yeah, that map.
So this is the United States Census tract. It's I'm not entirely too sure what goes
Recording
into
in progress.
I'm not entirely too sure what goes into the how they design their map, their map boundaries, but this is the census tract is how we use to evaluate and find if a project requires a public convenience and necessity. So this is the information that staff is required to use.
Gotcha, okay, thank you. I have no further questions for staff.
Do I have to request to speak? Hi, Jordan.
How you doing?
So you originally wanted to deny this project. Can you kind of give us the summary version of why staff wants to deny this project?
Yeah, so that I just want to make it clear that is still staff's position, is the recommendation for denial as a strict interpretation of the municipal code. We had our city attorneys prepare the recommendation for approval, or the resolution for approval based on the discussion at the last Planning Commission public hearing. But to go over the point about why staff is recommending denial, it is a strict interpretation of the municipal code as far as the boundaries from the sensitive receptors, in this case it being a church, and as well as the over-concentration within the census tract, where 3 are allowed in the census tract. There are 5 currently within the census tract, and this would allow for a 6th one. And the recommendation from the police department as far as the calls for service within this service area.
Okay. And then can you kind of give me a strategy on how you plan on getting the 5 down to 3?
There isn't a strategy to get them from 5 to 3. One way, typically a way when you implement a new ordinance or you rezone a property, it's more of like I can classify it as a waiting game for the use to dissipate. Any new use must adhere to the new zoning restrictions. So in this case, that would be something, a strategy, if you would, that you would implement is that any new use that stops at one of the existing ABC license locations would have to, if years later they wanted to apply for something similar, they would have to apply, go through the conditional use permit process or any other process that's established at the time to be able to, so to speak, renew the use.
But until that happens, we have 5 in that C2 zone.
Yes.
Okay, and the timing of that could be years.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you believe that that's an unfair advantage to this applicant?
That I cannot comment on. Staff has to evaluate it as far as the interpretation of the municipal code as adopted by City Council back in 2013. City Council can at any time, if they would wish to, could reevaluate the section of the code that we were referring to, which in this case is 90-90, and revise the criteria to meet whatever their goals and objectives are at the time. As the ordinance stands right now, especially when it concerns the sensitive receptors, it does give the approval body the authority to reevaluate or evaluate a project outside of the requirements that are outlined within the municipal code, which is right now property line to property line boundaries.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have for now. Thank you.
Vice Chair Ward?
Do I have, no, I didn't have to request to speak. Okay. Thank you, Jordan. Quick question on that 600-foot. So finding 1A, it is within 485 feet boundary to boundary, but the finding of fact goes through, a rationale and justification for why the 485 feet meets the intent. Everything from the intervening roadways, path of travel, the separation with Highway 74. Have we done that in the past, where we've exercised that discretion in terms of those strict interpretations of the code?
Yes, that was most recently done last year with the La Perla Market project that was brought before you July 15th of 2025, where we evaluated it similarly to the resolution before you today for approval. We've also done it for a tobacco use under Section 90-91 a couple of years ago. So there is that's been something that has been done for projects in the past.
Gotcha. And then, so the only other component that is driving staff's recommendation, you mentioned strict adherence to our municipal code, is the concentration.
Is the concentration and the recommendation from the police department. Not only do we have to evaluate it based on the number of ABC licenses within a census tract, but we also have to evaluate it from a safety standpoint of view, which in this case, the police department assists us with evaluating those findings for safety and recommended that we do not approve the project based off of the trouble that they have within this area of the city.
Gotcha. Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you, Jordan. A couple of questions. The trash enclosure was amended in the general plan in 2026, correct?
The zoning ordinance did address the trash enclosures, and it was expected that all commercial uses within the city would adhere to the trash enclosure standards by January 2026.
Okay, and applicant agrees to somewhat update the trash enclosure with the bar and the roof?
Yes, my last communication with the applicant, they were receptive to the conditions of approval within the staff report, besides one modification, which they would be able to address when it's their time to come up and speak.
Okay. The other question is that the word over-concentrated, this is citywide in general, isn't it?
This is, you could say it's citywide. I did review the census data around the city. There's very few census tracts where it's not over-concentrated. I counted maybe 1 or 2 census tracts that weren't over-concentrated, and the ones that weren't over-concentrated were strictly just residential areas within the city, so they wouldn't qualify for something like this because there's not residentially zoned property within that area. So yes, this is more. Some census tracts are over concentrated than others, but yes, this is an ongoing problem within the city.
So mainly going down the Florida corridors and Stetson for the most part.
That's
It's all
correct.
over concentrated.
Yes.
So I just think as city council should maybe revise the general plan about the number, because anytime we run into anybody trying to apply for a type 20 or 21, it's gonna hit back as over concentrated. And I just think maybe the city council should come back to the drawing board on that, because it's gonna be a problem every time somebody applies, but
Okay.
I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and open up to public comment. Are there any members present that would like to speak on this item? Public hearing, yeah, public.
Chair, if I may, before we
Yes,
begin
forgot about
public,
that, yes.
a public hearing, I just wanted to note for the record that tonight, as you know, we have 4 commissioners seated. So under the city's adopted rules, any motion before the commission requires a 3 affirmative votes to carry. So that being said, a 2-2 tie vote would not be considered a majority. So that motion essentially would fail if there is a 2-2 tie vote. I also wanted to note for the record that a tie vote is deemed a denial of the application, so the applicant would have the opportunity to appeal to City Council pursuant to the Hemet Municipal Code. I believe it's 2-38, if I'm not mistaken. So I just wanted to put that out there on the outset. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody having questions of the city attorney about that? Okay. Any members of the public?
No, Chair.
Would the applicant like to come up to the podium?
Good evening, Commissioners. Brett Engstrom on behalf of the applicant. Thank you for having us back. We'd also like to thank planning staff again for all the hard work they've done in bringing this to a hearing. I do have the property owner, business owner / here with me tonight. We have read the conditions. We appreciate all the work and thought that went into these, and we agree with those conditions. We would love to continue to operate in the city of Hemet. He's been here 40 years at that same location and would like to continue as such. So maybe I'll turn it over to him just for a brief hello.
Hello, I'm Ahmad. I'm the owner of Palm Valley Mobile. Like you said, I've been there for 40 years. To go back to one of your questions, you were talking about advantage, disadvantage, position for my gas station without that license. It's a serious disadvantage for my gas station because people go to a gas station to buy certain things, and one of them is beer and wine. And if they don't have it there, they'll just go somewhere else. So that is bringing a big disadvantage to my gas station. And that's all I'm asking is to get that advantage back and operate normally like everybody else around me. And that's all I have to say, basically. Thank you for your time.
And you do agree to the trash enclosure agreement with the city?
I've already agreed with it with Jordan. So
All right, thank you very much.
all his conditions are exactly what I was gonna do anyway, except for that one. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we'll go ahead and, anybody on Zoom or teleconference?
I see no one on Zoom or teleconference, Chair.
Okay. With that, we're going to go and close public hearing and go to discussion.
Yeah. So I, over the last couple of weeks, I went to bought a lot of Coke Zeros there. I went 4 different times. And I also went to the Shell, to the Lions Market, and that Walgreens. And I would say that Palm Mobile definitely is the nicest, cleanest looking, gas station convenience store there was there. Looking at the census tract, I mean, I feel like they don't know our community. It's somebody sitting at a federal level that made the census tract. If you really pick it apart, I feel like it should just go straight down line. And if you do that, now it reduces the number to 5. One of them is a Walgreens. Nobody's stopping in there. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't stop in there for an alcoholic beverage. I feel initially last time I was for sure denying. The police department is not here. Also, I know last time the police department said it goes all the way down Florida. I would say by far, the Lyons and Florida intersection is way sketchier than the intersection at Palm and Florida, since there's a vacant lot right across the street. Of the 4 times, I didn't see really any transient people standing outside or waiting around. And it's not a type 21, so it's not liquor. So thinking you probably need a lot of beer in order to get rowdy like that. And, I think that my position has changed, especially because he's put so much of the community, and he's also done a bunch of improvements, been here for 40 years, he's gonna improve his trash. That's expensive. And right now in this economy, somebody in that position, it really speaks highly that they want this. And I couldn't remember, what were the times, if any of you guys remember, the times that he was going to allow alcohol to be sold? I believe it was going to close early, like at 10, right? 10 or 11? I mean, that,
10, I believe.
yeah, I mean, I would say that 90% of the violent crimes happen at night, and he's stopped selling at 10. The sun goes down at 7. I feel like, my position has definitely changed on this matter. But that's all I really have to say.
Commissioner Hill, you request to speak?
I did. Yeah, I just can't get past the fact that there's an allotment of 3 in C2 zone for this, and we have 5 currently, and there's no real strategy to get it back into 3. And so this, I just can't get past the fact that it's an unfair advantage for this applicant. And so as far as the police department goes, I understand where they're coming from, but I don't, if you want to get rid of alcohol being the catalyst for crime, then you got to make it a dry city. You got to take alcohol away from everybody, not just one little place. So to me, that's kind of negated. So for me, the heartburn is there's 5 in a allocation zone of 3, and this would make 6. And I think we had 6 in this zone at one time, and they moved out. And I don't think that there's an appreciable difference here. And I think, I like the fact, I like to be supportive of our business owners and not drive them out of the city for something as trivial, I don't want to say trivial, but for this kind of conditional use permit, not, hanging in the balance. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Worth, do you request to speak?
I still have to press that button. I guess there's 3 things for me. And it is all, it's 2 of them are the strict adherence to our code, and one is the distance. It's pretty close to the 600, and I really appreciate the rationale and justification as to why 485 is sufficient. And knowing that area, I tend to agree with that. If the 600 somewhat, does that just mean that you won't cause a problem if you're 602 feet versus 485? I don't know. Second is the overconcentration, and I tend to agree with some of the comments that we probably should have some. The overconcentration along Florida Avenue, Sanderson, and Stetson makes sense. That's the commercial corridors, where the other areas are not, and it's based on population. It's not based on the consumer patterns of the community. The third is in regards to the police department, and I agree also that it's kind of hard to prove counterfactual. I think, frankly, that the trash enclosure will do more to reduce crime in the back than any impact associated with selling beer. but that's tough a little bit because as we had our planning commission work session with the city manager, there was, that was some of the feedback that I got from my friends and neighbors was just how unsafe the city is. And I want to respect that, and if the police department are finding that correlation, then that's something that needs to be considered. But I do agree that the crime is coming from a lot of different sources, and I think it is hard to put that responsibility and requirement on the single business owner who's just trying to stay in business. And to me, that is a higher priority than the potential that selling beer would increase crime. And I think one of the things that stuck out to me was last meeting, the applicant said that part of their partnership with the police department was to call on everything. And so I think I personally, initially when I read the staff report prior to the last planning commission meeting, I agreed with the staff recommendation of denial. At this point, I would support approving this CUP.
Thank you very much. Viramontes, you want to request to speak?
Yeah, I also believe last time Jordan had mentioned that some of these type 20s were grandfathered in, or they were there before we even had to go through this process. I also took that in consideration, and then I'm looking up the schedule for the church, and because every time I drove by, the church was closed. I understand it's a sensitive receptor, but they operate less than. Their busiest day obviously is Sunday, and that looks like maybe 2 hours they're open a day. I also went on Google Earth, and it was 586 to an exit. Again, it's property line, but not like to the entrance. I don't know if that makes a huge difference. It's also gated. It has a huge iron fence around it. I don't know if that should be the biggest concern or, a concern at all, since this gentleman operates his gas station, I would say 24 hours a day versus 2 hours a day. I would say that we should also consider things like that.
Well, I don't have much to say. The trash enclosure being updated is a good thing. I'm happy that the applicant's willing to do that. Being told to call him at PD on everything, and then that kind of backfires on you is like a bit of a flip narrative. So, he's trying to do a good thing, and then it backfires on him by doing a good thing. So it's kind of unfair for him at the first meeting of him not having the opportunity just because he was told to call on everything, and then we start seeing all these numbers, and we start putting that against him. The other thing is, the citywide overconcentrated. I think city council needs to come back to the drawing board on the general plan on that, because anybody who wants to open up a restaurant, it's going to come back as overconcentrated, and then we have to look and review it. And, it's something that needs to change because times are changing. Population's getting bigger, and, and like Commissioner Vice Chair Worth said, is Florida Avenue and Stetson are our main corridors, and that's where all the commercial is. So of course it's going to be oversaturated, every one of them. So it just wasn't planned right, I don't think, with the whole 5 per district, per zone, or 3 per zone, wherever it was. So with that being said, I think, does anybody want to entertain motion?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion. I am recommending option number 1 to approve the project, adopt Planning Commission Resolution Attachment Number 1, approving conditional use permit CUP 25-004, subject to conditions of approval, Exhibit 1A, and make a determination of public convenience or necessity, PCN 25-003, and direct staff to file a notice of exemption with the county clerk for CEQA purposes.
I second that motion.
Have roll call. City clerk, okay.
Can I get a roll call? Commissioner Viramontes?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ware,
Yes.
Chair Beamstuffer.
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much for your 40 years of business in our community.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Before moving to the next item on the agenda, Community Development Director Monique, would you please read the following appeal procedures into record?
Yes, Chair. An appeal of the Planning Commission's decision may be made by an aggrieved party to the City Council, subject to the Hemet Municipal Code Sections 2-38 through 2-43. Any such appeal shall be filed within 10 calendar days of the Planning Commission decision by completing an appeal application on forms provided by the Community Development Department. The appeal application shall include all of the following: specific action appealed from, specific grounds of the appeal, relief or action sought from the City Council, address where notice can be sent to the appellant, and payment of required appeal fee established by City Council resolution. Note, incomplete applications will not be accepted. A maximum of 5 additional days may be allowed to correct deficiencies. The Community Development Director shall schedule the appeal for a de novo public hearing before the City Council within 30 calendar days. The Council may affirm, modify, or reverse the Planning Commission decision, making findings required by the Hemet Municipal Code or state law. The decision of the City Council shall be final.
Thank you for that. We'll now move on to action item 9A for public hearing item for the extension of time.
Community?
Is your microphone on?
Yeah, it's on.
There you go.
There we go. So, good evening. My name is Nathan Morin. I'm Assistant Planner here at the City of Hemet. Tonight I will be presenting to you extension of time 26001 for the Palm Villas at State. So per our strategic plan integration, this meets the Goal 1, quality of life, and Goal 2, economic opportunity. The applicant for this project is Palm Communities, as well as the owner of the properties of question. And the project location is at the northwest corner of State Street and Menlo Avenue at the following parcel number shown on the screen before you. A little bit of background on this project. On February 26th of 2024, the Planning Commission approved Site Development Review number 23-008, tentative parcel map number 38450, and variance number 23-002. Some of you were on that Planning Commission for this approval. This approval allowed for a 157-unit affordable housing community on a 7.84-acre site in the city of Hemet. The site development review application included the development of 5 3-story family apartment buildings for Phase 1 and 2 more for Phase 2, allowing up to 35 feet in height, a 2-story community building, as well as including a manager's unit as part of that building, and a single-story maintenance room that also acts as a laundry facility, which I will go into more detail as we move along further. The apartment buildings will also consist of 2 and 3 bedroom dwellings, ranging in size from 753 to 1,003 square feet of living area. And the amenities included would be things such as outdoor recreation areas like a multi-sport ball court, as well as a tot lot. The project also includes a tentative parcel map to create 2 parcels, 3 lettered parcels from 6 parcels with a dedication to the County Riverside of 469 square feet due to an encroachment onto the project site for the Riverside County Workforce Development Building. And a variance application as well for an increase in height of the perimeter fencing from 6 feet to 8 feet. So this entitlement expired on February the 26th of 2026, and the applicant requested an extension of time prior to the expiration date, which makes this project eligible to be heard tonight. And they, again, they're requesting a 2-year extension of time. The Planning Commission authority, pursuant to sections 90-48.8, 70-1, and 70-167A, and 90-44.8, is that a site development review, tentative parcel map, and variances expire after 24 months final approval unless construction has commenced. At this point in time, construction has not commenced, which is why we're requesting an extension of time. And this project, again, is also eligible because it was requested prior to February the 26th, which was February 9th was the actual request date for this. This item was publicly noticed in the newspaper on the Press Enterprise on Friday, March 27th, 2026. I personally placed it into the newspaper through the ad process, as well as noticing for mailing. I also personally mailed these out on March 27th, placed in the mail on March 26th. And this was what the owners and occupants would have received in their mail. Shown on the screen now is the aerial map location of the project site. It is on the northwest corner of State Street and Menlo Avenue. There are addresses already assigned at 761 and 785 North Street, as well as 160, 260, and 320 West Menlo Avenue. The general plan land use designation for this property is mixed use, and this type of proposed project fits into this kind of land use. The zoning for this project is R3 multifamily residential, which allows from 18.1 to 30 dwelling units per acre. This project is proposing 24.5 dwelling units per acre. A little more information about the project. This project will include a resident services coordinator that will provide some on-site services, and we'll be reaching out to nonprofits and agencies to help provide the residents in the future with programs such as English as a second language, computer training, nutrition and wellness programs. And moving into the future, if this project is approved for an extension, the resident services coordinator would also be able to change some of these programs over time at the request of the residents. This project does qualify as a density bonus type project per government code section 65915F. And with that, this type of project can request incentives or concessions to essentially modify the project that don't meet the currently approved zoning code requirements. And this is per state government code that allows them to change such things as parking requirements. But more extensive list is they're doing reductions of private open space, covered parking. They're doing building modifications to the building length and some of the entry features, just to name a few. Shown before you is site plan for phase 1. There are 5 residential buildings proposed. R2 buildings are proposed to the north and the south end of this project. R1 type buildings are in the middle between the R2 buildings. And then R3 is proposed to the east extent, just beneath the tot lot. And then the gray building towards State Street is the community building, which will also be the manager's unit as well. Phase 2 will have 48 units. Will include 2 additional buildings. It will also include R2 and R1 type buildings as per this project. So R2 will face Menlo, and R1 will be the one that faces behind the workforce center or workforce development center off State Street. Prepared some of the unit plans. I'll keep this brief. Essentially, this project would be bringing forth 753 square feet up to 778 square feet for 2 units. The variations between these are very subtle. It's mainly just additional areas for storage and some slightly larger areas for some of the living spaces. There will also be 3-bedroom apartments proposed for this development. starting at 984 square feet and up to 1,003 square feet. The manager's unit will be the exception, which will be a bit larger at 1,145 square feet. And there will be two of these, one for phase one and one for phase two. And again, these are very subtle in terms of what's the differences between them are. It's really just additional storage space, less storage space is the differences. These are the architectural renderings of building type R1. Again, these are the ones that are in the center, surrounded by the R2 buildings on site. Floor plan 1, essentially it's all 2-bedroom predominantly and a few 3-bedroom on the first floor. And then the second floor mirrors that, and the third floor mirrors that as well. R2, these are the ones that are far north and south. The one facing Menlo, the one facing the Palm Villas to the north. These will be the renderings as proposed. And floor plans, very similar as well. Two bedroom, 3-bedroom, and they mirror each other as you move up the floors. R3 is a little different than the R2 and R1s. These have less units per floor, but these are predominantly two bedrooms and a 3-bedroom for the R3 type building. Shown is your community building. This will be also your designated mailroom and a secured mailroom area for residents. They will be able to come in here and they'll have opportunities for some of those classes I was mentioning earlier. There'll be office spaces, restrooms, as well as a space for them to, it looks like host parties. It says there's a wet bar, so I would assume that's like a sink and an area for them to host guests. And then the manager's unit would be there. Essentially a 3-bedroom with just a little more square footage. C2 would be the laundry building. This would have 11 washers and dryers, and it meets the minimum requirements for the amount of units proposed. And this would be the trash enclosure, and the trash enclosure does meet the current standard requirements for Public Works, and there will be 6 of those. A little bit of the conceptual landscaping. Shown before you, they do have 7 different types of proposed trees and about a dozen different types of shrubs and grasses surrounding this property, proposed project rather. Zoom in shot, there's your community area between buildings R1. If you look in the grayish area in the middle of the buildings, those 6 orangish, bluish color things are umbrellas for tables, and as well as a grassy area. And these are line trees, and they're trees that are kind of have yellowish colored leaves and purple flowers, so it's very vibrant in color. Recreation open space, this would be next to the community building about when you come into this project. You'll have a tot lot there in the kind of oblong color with the circles in it with the playground, as well as tables and umbrellas, and then to the right you'll have a multi-sport ball court as well. And then here would be essentially between the southern portion of phase 1 and would be the northern portion of phase 2, where you have the 2 R2 buildings. This is a pathway. There are some more tables and umbrellas, and it's lined with trees and some more grasses and shrubs as well. The applicant is requesting also extension of time for the tentative parcel map as shown right here on the screen. Part of what came about with this extension of time is the applicant has been in the process of redesignating this area shown before you in red to get it out of the FEMA A flood zone in hopes to actually add additional units on top of what they're already proposing. The variance is showing you the fence. In the purplish color is going to be a masonry wall. To the east, which would be screen left, that would be all single-family residential. So you'll have an 8-foot wall separation. And then to the north would be also an 8-foot wall separation from another multifamily development that's been existing. And the entry points will be the tubular steel wrought iron. So kind of getting back to about the extension of time, this was approved on February 26th of 2024 for the SDR, the parcel map, and the variance. And the applicant has requested an extension of time prior to the expiration of the previous approval. So with this, the extension of time request is being requested because in the process, the applicant has been working on trying to receive additional tax credits and bonds to finance and modify the site plan to fund phase 2, as mentioned about the redesignating of the flood zone area. Use and reliance has been established for this project. The applicant has applied for tax credit and bonds as early as February 2026, and they are projected to win. This is one of the last key steps for funding this project. And since the original approval date, rather, the applicant has also secured 27 project-based vouchers from the Housing Authority of County Riverside. They've secured permanent local housing allocation grant funding with $5,500,000, and they have also received ASIC, or Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities funding, for $22 million for 157 units, and grant funding as well for $15,924,000 for transportation infrastructure improvements per City Council Resolution number 2025-091, which was an amendment to the original approval, which I'll go into a little more detail here. So findings in support of this request: after the original approval of February 26, 2024, the city and the applicant, as well as with RCTC, Riverside County Transportation Commission, and Riverside Transit Agency, made a joint application to the Housing and Community Development Department for an application to receive loan and grant funding, as I had mentioned previously. On August 23rd of 2024, that same year after the approval, the applicant secured $22 million and for the funding of 157 units, as well as the grant funding. With this, they were able to get $969,000 to go towards workplace development apprenticeship programs, Wi-Fi and internet on site, and bus passes for future residents, as well as the sustainable transportation infrastructure with $13,239,000 for a proposed downtown Hemet mobility hub, a bike and pedestrian path from Menlo and Palm along the rail corridor, a Class 4 bikeway between Palm and Santa Fe along Menlo Avenue, as well as sidewalk improvements along Menlo Avenue between Palm and Santa Fe. And additionally, transit-related amenities at $1,715,000 for 5 new bus stop shelters in the area that are to RTA's standards, also towards the mobility hub. But a little more detail on that: the mobility hub was shown in the red there. This is essentially just north of the library, just past the Simpson Center, in the big vacant lot across the street on Devonshire. Shown in red. Shown in green is the bike and pedestrian path going from Menlo to Palm, going along the rail corridor, and this could be activated with like some trails, landscaping, public art potentially could be in the future for that as well as the sidewalk improvements along Menlo Avenue, as shown to you in the orange. And all this would actually connect to Palm Avenue, where there's an existing bike pathway. So it would actually connect this whole region of our city with active transportation, which would be an excellent thing for our community. And showing our downtown Hemet specific plan bike circulation, you can see along the rail corridor there is intention in our specific plan adopted in 2016 to also include the rail corridor as an activation space for trail space. And these are the additional bike pathways as well. And as you can see, just to the left of that yellow and grayish line, there's a proposed transit hub there. This transit hub has actually been in the process, as far as my knowledge, is back as 2017. There were workshops that were held trying to get ideas on how we're going to develop this space. And part of that funding that this applicant has secured with this grant funding with the city and with the outside agencies, this extension time would allow for these infrastructure improvements to happen. If we don't extend this project, then some of these projects shown would not be funded. As for CEQA, the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Public Resources Code Section 21080.40 under Assembly Bill 1449. And it is respectfully recommended that the Planning Commission determine that this project is proposed to be exempt under CEQA, adopt the Planning Commission resolution approving extension time 26001 for the site development review application, tentative parcel map, and the variance, and to direct staff to file a notice of exemption with the state clearinghouse and county clerk. One last little item I wanted to clarify, that I did have to update the resolution. There was a little error on my part in the section numbering, where I called it Section 1, Section 2, and I went to Section 5, as you might have seen in the staff report. That has been updated to be now Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, as it should be. But that is my presentation, and thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Nathan, for that presentation. Just for clarity, though, is the extension of time is just extension of time. Nothing has been added or changed. We're
That
just
is correct.
extension of time. Okay, commissioners, any questions for staff?
Thank you for that presentation, Nathan. Just a couple of questions. Has the applicant done anything to move the process forward other than looking for loans and grants and stuff like that?
Yes, so that would be, as I mentioned, about the transportation-related amenities, going into a application with us and RTA, RCTC for the funding for their 157 units, as well as for the transportation amenities.
Gotcha, okay. And then my second question is, does the city see a problem if they end up getting that FEMA flood zone taken out with more units, with adding more units?
I'm sorry, can you repeat
Yeah,
that?
so you said that they want to, basically, they were reaching out to FEMA because that's their flood zone is in a FEMA A flood zone, and they're trying to get that eliminated?
Yes,
correct?
and they have already done so.
Oh, okay, and they're adding more units there?
Their plan is to, at a later public meeting, bring a site development review modification to add additional 48 units.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And the city doesn't see a problem with that?
No.
No. It's good to see like these modern-looking apartments, coming to Hemet. I think it's a pretty cool. You see them in every major city now, and I don't see any around here, so that's cool to see. No further questions.
Commissioner Hurd, you request to speak?
Thank you. Hi, Nathan, thank you for that. Remind me again why this is CEQA exempt?
So per the Government Resources Code, an assembly bill that was passed in 2023, affordable housing projects such as this one are considered to be exempt.
Affordable housing, okay, got it.
Yep. And just to also let you know, I do have the applicant live with us on Zoom as well.
Thank you, Nathan. In regards to the contributions and funding towards the city's mobility hub, how is that going to be benefited by the city? Is that just funding going into an account that the city is going to have to build later, or are those some of those construction activities part of the responsibility of this applicant?
It would not be on the applicant to construct those. It would be working with RCTC and RTA.
The sidewalks as well?
City sidewalks,
Bike track?
my understanding would be with Public Works.
Okay, so but that'd be a city-led project partially funded by grant funds that this applicant has secured as associated with the project.
Correct.
Gotcha. And then also so it's affordable housing. Is there a rent subsidy component here for the future residents?
There is, so far they've secured 27 project-based vouchers. To my understanding, what that is essentially the applicant would be required to pay a percentage of their overall income, and then the rest of that would be taken care of by the voucher.
Is that similar to there's a apartment complex just kind of to the north of this? Is that a similar?
The Hemet Vistas?
Yes, thank you.
I'm not as familiar with those ones. I do believe those are 100% affordable. I can't say for the record yes or no, but to my understanding with affordable housing and project-based vouchers, yeah, that would probably be the case too.
And I think that's kind of a good model, or at least a good real experience on these. That community, at least from the outside, still looks very nice. Do you know if we've had any concerns from city staff on that existing
Not
facility?
that I've heard, and I believe if I'm correct on this, I think the same applicant for this project constructed those ones as well.
Gotcha. And then the only other question was just confirmation of the 8-foot wall. Is that on all the entire perimeter?
Correct, yes. So anything that's not an access point, obviously it would be wrought iron, but everything else surrounding the property would be an 8-foot block wall surrounding.
Okay. And there's been no comments or concerns from the single-family residential that that 8-foot wall would be, they might like it, I don't know.
I haven't received any directly, specifically for this extension of time.
That's all I have. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan. Just a couple quick questions. The applicant also, do they have another apartment complex here in town, I believe?
Yes, and like I said, if I am correct on this, I believe they did develop Hemet Vista Apartments just to the north of this development
Okay.
that border this property.
That's what I remember back a few years ago. The other question, 2 questions, is for RENA numbers, if they do the additional 46 or 48 units on top of that, it's 205 units. What category would that go in the RENA? Low income, very low income? What number are we targeting with RENAs for these?
For this project, as proposed for the 2024 approval, it was a range of, I believe it was 30 to 60% AMI, and that would be for a family of 4, which would be approximately $56,000 for annual income.
Okay.
Chair, so that in translating that it is in the low income, right? In the low
category?
income, yes,
Perfect.
and very low.
And you did say with the tax credit that it was projected to win.
Correct. As was
So that's still a gray area. What if, is it guaranteed or are we still, what if?
based upon what the applicant has relayed to me, that's what they had determined, and that's what they told me prior to this evening, was that they were projected to win that. But they are here on Zoom, and they could probably speak more to that.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for staff before we open up public hearing? Nope, all right. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
We're gonna go ahead and open up a public hearing. Is there any members present that would like to comment on this item or on Zoom?
Chair, I have no one here in person. However, the applicant is online if the commission would like to speak with them.
Absolutely. When will we know he's ready?
Hi, my name is David Abrams with Palm Communities. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Great.
We're just giving you the podium if you'd like to say anything.
Oh, I have no comments at this time.
What about your tax credit? Are you guaranteed that or is it projected?
It's projected. I can't tell you that that's guaranteed. We are projected to win. There's a simulation that comes out from a company called Kingdom Development that's pretty reliable, but I can't tell you it's guaranteed, but everything's pointing to us winning. We would know for sure on May 12th, but we're already getting going on our design documents. So that's where we are. So if we do win May 12th, we would be starting construction in November of 2026. Tax credits and bonds are the last step in the affordable housing financing process. With the gap financing that Nathan mentioned, such as the 22 million and the affordable housing sustainable communities, PLHA funding from the county, and also the 27 vouchers from the county, that's considered gap financing. And at the end, you get your tax credits and bonds. So we're at the last step here, and we just need some more time.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant, commissioners? Nope. All right. Well, thank you for your time, and we wish you the best. Vice Chair Worth has something.
Can you confirm, are you the same applicant that built the project to the north?
I think Nathan was referring to Hemet Vistas. Was that correct, Nathan?
Yes, that's.
Yeah.
Okay. And how is that going? Are you still involved in that, or do you just build it and then it's operated?
No, so I wasn't working at Palm Communities when that was built, so I don't can't really speak to a lot of it. But we do keep these projects long-term for at least 15 years. So we're still in that project. I have to talk to asset management more about the details of everything about how the day-to-day is going at the project. I don't have those details for you. But I can tell you that, you know, we're not a merchant builder. We don't build and sell. We hold these long term. So we really care about the operations.
What's the 15-year mark represent? Is there a?
It's a compliance period that the state mandates and also our investors mandate. So we really need to stay in these projects for that long. And that's kind of basically the minimum.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. No further questions.
All right, thank you very much. Good luck in May. We hope you hear some good news.
Thank you very much. Appreciate staff's efforts here, especially Nathan, and always Monique.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close public hearing. And discussion, or if not, entertain motion.
Well, this is just for an extension, so I don't want to get into any other details, so,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
Make that motion.
I motion to determine that the proposed project is exempt from California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Public Resources Code, Section 21080.40 under Assembly Bill AB 1449, signed into law on October 11th, 2023, and adopt the attached Planning Commission resolution approving a 2-year extension of time for the site development review number 23-008, tentative parcel map 38450, MAP number 23-009, and a variance number 23-002, and direct staff to file a notice of exemption with the state clearinghouse and county clerk.
I'll second.
All right, now it's time to vote. If we can have voting. Screen goes dark. There we go. And that passes 4-0.
We doing a roll call?
Do we still need to do verbal roll call? Do we still need to do verbal roll call on that, or is,
If you like, Chair, we can.
if it's not legally required, we don't need to? Okay,
It's not legally required, it's
All
just
right.
whatever commission's discretion.
Okay, good.
perfect. We'll move on to our 10A work study item. May we have staff approach the podium, please?
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jeline Ferris. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director, Assistant City Engineer. This is a work study item to consider an amendment of condition of approval number 69 for tract 33825 and 33825-1. All right, and this is consistent with strategic plan item for organizational effectiveness. All right, this is a map of McSweeney Farms, and tract 33825 and 33825-1 are located in Planning Area 8, which is on the northwesterly side there between State Street and that long green corridor, which is Cactus Valley Channel. So a little bit of history. The McSweeney Farms development started under the ownership of SunCal, and SunCal went bankrupt back in 2008. Raintree then purchased the McSweeney Farms project, and subsequently Richmond American then purchased tracks 33825 and 33825-1, and they developed those tracks. And the Cactus Valley Channel and State Street crossing were to be constructed as part of the Phase 2 development, which included the Richmond American tracks. And currently, as it sits, and I'll show an exhibit that will kind of tie this in. Probably should have put it between them, but that's okay. There's currently 16 lots out of track 33825 and 5 lots from track 33825-1 that are located within the Zone A floodplain from Cactus Valley Channel, and that's due to the State Street crossing that hasn't been constructed yet. Richmond American currently has addendums to their sales contracts in which they're providing an additional 10 years, or they're providing 10 years of flood insurance for the homeowners that are located within that floodplain. And after the 10 years, the homeowners will be responsible for that if the floodplain has not been removed due to the improvements. The existing condition of approval states that the builder shall provide flood insurance until a letter of map revision is approved. It doesn't have a time limit specified on that. And so Richmond American would like to modify that condition of approval to require flood insurance for a period of up to 10 years, which is what they're currently doing right now. This is a figure right now that kind of shows where Cactus Valley Channel is, State Street, and then the dash lines. I thought I'd labeled the tracks, sorry, but those are the two tracks in question, 33825 and 33825-1, and you can see how the floodplain comes into those tracks right now. And if you can see where the dark blue line crosses the yellow line or crosses State Street, that's where the State Street crossing is to be constructed. And once that is constructed, it will remove the tracks out of the floodplain. So right now, a revised LOMAR was done because the floodplain was actually much larger than this in the beginning. So they reduced it to just this now with the construction of the channel without having an outlet. So COA 69 also required the builder to enter into an agreement with the city stating that they will provide this flood insurance to the homes that are still located in the floodplain. We included a draft of that agreement that is proposed to go to council next week on the 14th. And currently, Cactus Valley Channel is a developer-led project, and it's going through plan check right now with flood control. It's gone through one plan check already. We received plan check comments back on January 27th, 2025, and we are currently waiting for the developer to resubmit to flood control. So that's all that I have. I'm here for any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you very much for that presentation. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
Yes. That 10-year mark, is that when the house is first sold, or does it transfer over? Like if I go and buy that house, does the 10-year start there?
No, it's from the date of original sale. So it'd be for 10 years from so if the homeowner sells it between that time, I would assume that the new owner would resume let's say there's 5 years remaining, they would have the remaining 5 years.
Gotcha, okay. And so it's a total of 21 homes?
Correct, yeah, yes. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I have no further questions at this time.
I have one question. Hi, Janine. Can you go back to slide 6? I think it's shows, yeah. So where is the floodplain channel being built?
So where I
Supposedly.
pointed to there with Cactus Valley Channel, that's currently graded. It's just not completely constructed, and the crossing that will convey the water under State Street has not been constructed either. So it's kind of graded. It's been mass graded and graded. The city originally was constructing that channel and crossing with another builder or another contractor, and that they did not finish the work. So it's kind of,
Is to finish this, is that on us? The
no,
city?
it's on the developer Raintree to finish it.
Okay. And what are they saying?
So we got plan check comments back from flood control in 2025, and they were waiting for them to resubmit back to flood control.
That's quite a long time to wait.
It is quite a long time, yes. Yeah.
What's their excuse, do you know?
Well, I mean, phase 2 is almost completed construction, and phase 3 hasn't started yet. So I think it's a money issue.
Okay. I gotcha. Thank you, Janine.
So the original contract with Leonida Builders, portions of that, was that funded from bonds? Was that, what was paid?
CFD.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a CFD for McSweeney for infrastructure improvements.
okay. So it was from labor shortages, COVID-19, those types of things caused it to stop it. At some point, if we get into a recession or something like that, would the city consider pulling bonds and completing that so that that it's not just those ones in the flood zone, it's also additional maintenance, cost associated with having to pump that out, potential impacts even upstream in the Cactus Wash. Is there some point that if we're not getting movement from Raintree on advancing it, that we could pull a trigger on our own and get that completed?
I mean, I suppose it's always an option, obviously. I mean, we'd want the developer to to finish it and construct it. And we are in the process of trying to turn it over to flood control for ownership and maintenance. So,
I would assume flood control won't want it till it's done.
correct. Yeah, that's why they're in plan check right now and making sure it's per their standards, which was
Right.
part of the original development agreement anyways, was that it
Right.
would be per flood control standards, so.
So in the interim, who's maintaining that?
Raintree is.
Okay, yeah, there's some other projects in the city. One comes to mind over on Costin, the
Seattle Basin.
pepper tree.
Oh, pepper
Yeah,
tree.
You know, that we get caught with long-term issues because just the timing of the markets and such. So
Yeah.
hopefully the economy continues to allow them to move into the next phase and complete those improvements. So thank you.
Pretty much most of the questions got answered. I just wanted clarity. Is it 16 homes that are in the flood control, or is it 21? 'Cause I thought you mentioned 21.
So
I
it's,
thought it was 16.
there was 16, I think, in one, it's 16 in track 33825, and then 5 lots in 33825-1, so a total of 21 lots.
Okay. That's what I want clarity on. I don't really, Vice Chair Work kind of answered the questions asked the question I was looking for, so I don't have any other questions for you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and open, do we need to do public hearing? Yes. On the next page. With that, we're going to go ahead and open up public hearing. Are there any members present that would like to comment on this?
No, Chair.
Okay. And nobody on Zoom?
No.
All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and close. Discussion or motion? Okay. Entertain motion.
I'll make a motion to determine that the proposed project is consistent with previously adopted environmental impact report, State Clearinghouse number 2001121017, for the McSweeney Farms specific plan and pursuant to section 15162 of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and CEQA guidelines. No further analysis is required. And 2, review and discuss the merits of amending conditions of approval, COA number 69, in the proposed agreement between the City of Hemet and Richmond American Homes. And 3, recommend that the City Council adopt the proposed amendment of COA number 69 for site development review, number 21020, and Model Home Complex, MHC number 21-007, and authorize the city manager to execute all related documents approved as to final form by the city attorney.
I second that motion.
Everybody confirmed their votes? And that passes 4-0. Okay, moving on to item 10B, work study item with Director Noah on the Hemet Roadway Comprehensive Safety Action Plan.
Yes, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Noah Rao, Public Works Director and City Engineer. There's our presentation. We're going to be switching gears now. We can get excited about roadway safety. So I'll be kicking off this presentation portion of our second public workshop for our comprehensive citywide roadway safety action plan. Our first public workshop was held at the library on November 13th, 2025. And I did see that some flyers got out before we got the location set here. So hopefully nobody's over there looking for us, but we did get it fixed and everyone should know that it's here tonight. All right, our agenda this evening, the presentation will cover an overview of the project, the public outreach and engagement that we've held to date, a summary of the collision analysis, the countermeasure toolbox that's in development, the project identification, project prioritization criteria, and then next steps. So I'll start going over the project overview, and then I'll be turning it over to Monique midway through here, and she'll continue through the presentation. Monique is our consultant from Shen Ryan Associates. All right, so in order for the city to qualify for certain state and federal competitive funding opportunities, the city must have a qualified, data-driven roadway safety action plan in place. Hemet previously completed a systemic safety analysis report known as an SSAR back in 2019. It is necessary to have an updated plan at least every 5 years, and so that plan essentially expired in 2024. So federal funding became available for initiatives that will prevent roadway deaths and severe injuries through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Safe Streets for All program, known as SS4A. There was $5 billion allocated to the program over 5 years, which was from 2022 through 2026. Before a regional, local, or tribal entity is eligible for SS4A implementation funds, a data-driven comprehensive safety action plan must be in place. Therefore, Public Works applied for the planning grant back in June of 2023. This plan, the intent of this plan would be to guide future implementation projects and obtain funding for those. The city was notified of an award in December of 2023, and then after working through the federal process, an agreement for this grant was approved by the City Council in June of 2024. Then we did a thorough procurement process in which we selected Shen Ryan and Associates to conduct this project for the city. The City Council awarded that professional services agreement to CRA in April 2025. The safety action plan that the city envisioned on getting through this process is going to be a framework that the city will be able to maintain and keep updated in the years in between where the major updates are made to the plan. So we're going to have, a GIS dashboard and a systemic countermeasure toolbox that will be at our disposal after this plan is completed. All right, the project vision and goals were set at the beginning of the project, right after the first task force meeting. The vision statement reads, a Hemet where everyone can travel safely, walking, biking, driving, or taking transit without fear of serious injury or loss of life. It's very simple and straight to the point. The 5 project goals are to reduce fatal and serious injury crashes. That's to be accomplished by implementing data-driven strategies and targeted improvements to eliminate severe crashes, with a focus on high injury locations and systemic safety needs. To build safe and connected infrastructure for all users, and that will be by enhancing streets to safely accommodate all modes of travel through improved crosswalks, bikeways, lighting, intersection design, and access to schools, neighborhoods, and commercial areas. Third goal would be to manage speed and improve operations by advancing context-sensitive speed management strategies, improving traffic signal coordination in key corridors such as Stetson and Sanderson, and upgrading traffic control devices to reduce conflicts and improve safety. The fourth one there is to advance ready-to-implement projects and funding. This means developing a pipeline of prioritized shovel-ready projects and pursue grant opportunities to accelerate implementation, particularly in high-need and underserved areas. Last one is to promote education, partnerships, and accountability. The goal will expand safety education programs for all roadway users, including youth and e-bike users, strengthen partnerships with local schools, businesses, establish measurable performance targets to track progress. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Monique to continue through the presentation.
Yeah, before I get started, I just want to thank everybody for sticking to the end because we're gonna have some snacks out there. We're gonna have actions that we need your feedback. So before you leave, we're gonna walk through some different stations that kind of walk you through the life of the project, and then at the end, we would like for you to select your top 3 priority projects, and that's going to go through the go into our prioritization process. But good evening, Mr. Chair and the commissioners. My name is Monique Chen. I'm just going to continue what Noah started. So there are 8 required components to a comprehensive safety action plan. The first one is the leadership, commitment, and goal setting. You can see here I checked 50%. And so this is something, Noah talked about the visions, the goals, but one of the things we also need in order to self-certify this plan is to have our leadership body to make a commitment to Vision Zero to reduce fatality and severe injuries in the city of Hemet. And so something that we're hoping to get your support in today, and then Noah will take it to City Council shortly after. And the second piece is planning structure. And you heard Noah mention a task force that we established. So the task force is the various departments of the city, emergency response, police and fire. We got the county involved, the school district, and some of the nonprofit as well as your some long-term local residents. So together we were able to work through about 60-70% of the project now. We're looking to get to the prioritization and start developing solutions for the high priority projects. And the next one, safety analysis, and this task has been completed. And there's a safety assessment report that's posted on Hemet CSAP on the city's website. So we welcome your read and providing feedback if you'd like. And the next one is collaboration and engagement. This involves, working with the community members. And we've had 2 out of the 3. This is our second of the 3 workshop. And then we're going to have a final workshop in the summer of this year. And so we can wrap up the project. So we'll likely come back to you to get your feedback on the final plan. And the next one is equity consideration. That's one of the 8 requirements, and that's also completed. The only thing we want to really circle back to is that we want to make sure the equity plays into the high priority projects in that evaluation and selection process. And the next one is policy and process changes. We've reviewed all of the city's safety-related policies, standards, ordinance, and so we're going to be making some best practice recommendations as part of the plan. And NOAA can decide where to put that. A best way is probably going into the general plan circulation element at some point. And the next one, strategy and the priority and the project selections. And this is very much so in process. We're hoping after today's meeting, we can take the next 2 to 3 weeks to wrap that up and start developing concepts and do some CAD drawings for the plan. And last is progress and transparency. So at the end of the plan, we'll have a monitoring plan to sort of set standards and targets as when we would like to achieve what, so that everybody is going to be accountable as we're implementing the recommendations. And quickly on the project schedule, we started in late spring 2025. And so in the summer and fall of 2025, we did extensive data collection, collision data assessment from January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2024. And then we also conduct the equity assessment. And this is when we also had our first task force meeting and then the first workshop. Along the way, we had 4 pop-up events in the summertime, and it was a lot of fun. I'll get into a little bit of that later. And we're currently at the end of phase 2, which is winter and spring 2026. We're in the process of developing and prioritize projects. So we've already had the second task force meeting, and this is our second workshop here. And by the way, thank you for having us here tonight. And the next phase is the spring and summer of 2026, which is coming up very soon. And we're hoping to finalize and prioritize projects, drafting and finalize the safety action plan, creating the monitoring framework, and also conduct the last set of the task force meeting as well as the last workshop, and that's going to be hopefully sometimes in August this summer. and then going through the project adoption process. One thing I do want to point out here is that we are planning a Prepare One grant application for the SS4A implementation grant. The call for project is already out. So the project deadline, application deadline is May 26th, 2020, May 26th, 2026. So we have our work cut out for us, and we want to really roll up our sleeves and start working hard and getting to that project. And I mentioned earlier, in the summer of 2025, we conducted 4 pop-ups, and we brought our 360 cameras out there, and then we had snacks. Kids are out there, had a great time. Here are some photos on movie nights, Chalktober events, and then also the Rancho del Sol event. Along the way, we received fantastic feedback from our community members. Things like certain areas of concern, lighting is a concern, certain intersections, lack of sidewalk in certain neighborhoods. So we've documented them all as we're developing solutions. All these recommendations or concern areas are being addressed. And we are having altogether 3 task force meetings. As I mentioned, we've completed 2. We're going to have the 3rd one coming in the summer. This is the 2nd workshop. The last and 3rd workshop is coming up. I do want to encourage everybody to visit our project website, and as we're posting task force meeting summaries, presentations, workshop meeting summaries, presentations, as well as deliverables to date on the website. So feel free, and the summary of this meeting would also be posted on the project website. So quickly on the collision analysis, given the time constraints, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but we do have very large boards there to talk about collision locations and countermeasures and projects. But quickly, I want to provide some highlight on some observations here. So in the 5 years we analyzed, January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2024, we've noticed that Hemet has almost 2,000 injury collisions. These do not include property damage only collisions. So injury, whether it's complaint of pain, whether it's visibly injured, whether it's severe or fatal. So there's 1960 of those in the 5 years that we analyzed, of which 85% are vehicular-only collisions, and about 10% are pedestrian involved, and then 5% are bicycle involved. And then we also looked at where do these collisions happen? Are they within the intersection footprint, or are they in the mid-block? So here you can see in the chart, and for vehicle only, you're seeing more in the intersection as there's more movements, more signal control, more confusion, more conflicts. And very similarly for cyclists, for pedestrians, both intersection and mid-block come out about break even. One of the things I want to point out here is, we talked about vehicular-only collisions takes about 85% of the citywide injury collisions. But if you're really looking at fatal and severe collisions, I have it written down here. So for pedestrians, out of all pedestrian collisions, 13.5% result in fatality, and about 12% resulted in severe injury. And a little bit less significant for the cyclists, you got 2% resulted in death, and then 12% resulted in severe injury. So altogether, we're looking at 6.5% of vehicular-only injury that kind of occupies the severe and fatal of the total vehicular-only injuries. But for pedestrians, we're looking at 25.5%, and for cyclists, we're looking at 14%. So needless to say, our pedestrians and our cyclists are certainly a lot more vulnerable, and we really want to highlight on improving their safety in the future for our city here. And here is the high injury network. What you see here is all of the injury collisions. The 3 modes got overlapped together, and then the blue lines really designated as the high injury network. We used an SS4A, or actually the FHWA sliding window method to get there. And what I really want to point out here, if you look at the table, the total mileage, the blue lines you see here, covers about 13% of the total city roadway mileage. but then that covers 80% of the high injury network. So if we can gradually taking care of our 13% of the roads, we are going to eliminate 80% of those injuries. And so we talk about not only reacting to areas where collisions have already occurred, we want to look at systemically what are the environments that could cause collisions or likely have a high potential for certain collisions. So you see here two matrix here. The first one is for intersection, and you see for the various type of collisions and what are the environment. So the first one's intersection. Are they at signalized intersections? Are they at always stop controlled intersections? Are they at side street controlled intersections? What are the size of the intersections? 2x2, 4x4, 4x2. So we really kind of look through and trying to highlight and see what are some of the environments that are mostly having the potential to have collisions, even though the collisions has not occurred in the past. So as you can see here, the first row, we're looking at signal-controlled intersections, usually 4-lane cross 2-lane, and the violation is failure to stop at red light, right? And then the next one, you look at the side street stop control, the 106 here is red. You're looking at a small 2x2 intersection, failure to stop at a stop control. So those are the things we want to really looking at. And then the next one, I just want to point to the rear end collision, and it happens at the intersections 4x2 and safe speed. So we looked at these collisions and diagnosed and try to figure out what the right countermeasures may be to help to mitigate these collisions in the future. I'm not going to dive into this too much. This is very similar treatments, but it's about mid-block. So you're looking more like the posted speed limits and the number of travel lanes we see. And then we get into the countermeasure development. How do we handle, almost 2,000 collisions on top of the potential collision areas is that we really looking at the approach. Let's look at the crash types and then look at the national, state, and local resources on what are the most effective countermeasures to mitigate these kind of collision or crash types. And then we create a massive database, which I'm going to show a little bit here, on what kind of treatment, what kind of treatment, what kind of location can be taken care of by what kind of countermeasures. So it's a mix and matching game. So quickly we look at the sort of the crash type, and there's really 5 major crash types we see here on the vehicle-to-vehicle collisions. Broadside, I want to show some pictures here so everybody understand what broadside collisions are. That takes about 48% of the total injury collisions in the city. Rear end, talk about speeding, and there are other treatments, obviously, can happen, about 27%. Hit object, 9%. That could be, driving under the influence or speeding or not paying attention. Head-on collisions, and these are usually happening in intersections. Somebody's driving on the wrong lane and the two cars collided. That's about 7%. And then the next one is side swipe, and that could happen in intersection, could happen to lane change. That's about 6%. And we also, as I mentioned, have 10% of pedestrian-involved collisions and 5% of bicycle-involved collisions. So here are a list of references we've looked at. There's lots of research has been done over the years. And so each one of these references present different value as we were going through our countermeasure selection process. And some of them more focused on, what countermeasures best suit for what kind of collisions. Some of them are talking about crash reduction factors. Some of them talk about the lifespan of these countermeasures or how systemic they can be and how costly they may be. And then 2 other things I want to point out, actually 3. The one we also looked very heavily is the Caltrans local roadway safety manual. Before this generation, our state have the local roadway safety plan, LRSP. So the LRSM really was developed to accompany the LRSP, so it had great references and resources for us to utilize. And we also, Noah mentioned the 2019 SSAR that city conducted here. We definitely looked at those and look at what the countermeasures they've used and look at the collision trend over time. And then the County of Riverside is also conducting a Vision Zero action plan. So we are in coordination with them, and they're a little bit ahead of us. So we want to make sure as we're developing the projects, we don't conflict with their recommendations. So here's a massive database. I don't expect you to read it, but what I wanted to share is, as you can see, there's the countermeasures in one column, and the kind of the countermeasure settings, whether it's in intersection, whether it's in the signal issue, whether it's in segments. And then the next sets you looked at are the various crash types that I talked about, and then the cost of these collisions and crash types. And then to the right of the screen, you see are the various of resources that we utilize and kind of justify what are the most effective measures may be. So there are altogether about 68 countermeasures we identified that can be suitable for the city of Hemet. And here, just a quick example. I mentioned there are 60 plus, and here just one per, I would say, location. The first one is high visibility crosswalks with advanced stop bars. And this really alert drivers to see pedestrians are going to be crossing their presence. And the advanced stop bar, as you can see, creates a little bit of separation space between a stopped vehicle and the pedestrian crossing. You see that at Buena Vista in Florida, just right down the street here. The second one is a bicycle treatment. It's a class 4 separated bikeways. And you see here are sort of the softer part of the physical separation, but you can do planters, you can do raised curbs. There's all sort of treatments you can go in to provide that physical separation and to protect cyclists. I hear earlier for the housing project, the city got, the developer got the $13-14 million of the Affordable Housing and Sustainability grants. And so one of the things I saw was class 4 cycle tracks. So really good to hear, and I took photos of that, so we want to make sure we incorporate those into our recommendations if it happens to fall on our high injury network. And then the third one, I think city's already done a very good job on, is the traffic signal backplate with the reflective borders. And this really helps to improve the visibility both during the day, at night, or on those cloudy days, and help drivers to recognize their traffic signals coming up. And then last one, speed humps. I see this happening in some of the neighborhoods here already. So that could be really a traffic calming devices and trying to slow down traffic within neighborhood streets. Here again, just a quick example. Later on, you will see the boards. We'll probably showing 24 of those, but again, we have about 60 plus of countermeasures that can be applicable. And as part of the plan, what we'll do is for each countermeasure we recommended, you're going to see a description. You're going to see what crash type this countermeasure would address, and the reduction, the crash reduction factor, the systemic opportunity, the lifespan of these countermeasures, and how costly they are in the range of $1 sign and $3 sign. The goal here is when we are done with this project, Noah and team can continue update the collisions and trying to implement this. And so this is really, hopefully, is a manual and guide. When the project team's gone, the city can continue to implement these high priority projects. Okay, we're almost there. Project identification. So here's a high level approach on how did we, address this 13.8 miles of 38.1 miles of roads in 38.1 miles of roads in Hemet. First thing we wanted to do is we cover the entire high injury network, because there's a reason why they're called high injury network, and these are the blue lines on there. And then we took a step back saying, okay, well, we do want to identify projects that are manageable, implementable, because if we have a 10-mile road, guess what? We're not going to be able to implement all at once. So we broke them down to manageable sizes. They're ranging from 0.5 to about 1.5 miles. And as a result, we have 40 plus projects identified. In addition, we also had some fatal and severe collisions that were falling off of the high injury network, and those are the dots you see with the black dashed lines around it. So what we really want to do is, through this high priority prioritization process, We're going to identify 20 projects and study them more as the plan move forward. And these projects could include a site-specific project or a group of not on the lines, but in the dashed black circles. And there could be corridor updates. And there could be systemic improvements, like a signal type of improvements. There could be neighborhood enhancements, traffic calming type that would apply to certain types of neighborhood. And there also could be programmatic improvements. These are non-infrastructure, educational or enforcement type of improvements. So quickly on prioritization, this is really where we're at today, and we're hoping to get feedback from our community members as well. You see here, there's six altogether criteria, 4 of which are quantifiable, data-driven, based on our analysis and then the resources that we researched. So that's the high injury network score, that's the systemic environment, and also injury collision history. We talk about the equity needs and also our vulnerable users. We saw the severity of how vulnerable our pedestrians and cyclists are. So those are the 4 things that are data-driven, that's analytics. But then we also have 2 more human input, because nobody knows Hemet better than the residents here and the city staff. So we want to give some points to get some feedback from our community members, and then we'll work with the team here at the city to identify what the staff input may be. So with that, I can touch on the next steps real quick. So with that, after next steps, we're gonna move to the actual workshop that we're gonna have staff managing the stations. Feel free to start by asking lots of questions. But the next step here is that we really want to refine and finalize the countermeasure toolbox. We want to refine strategies and countermeasures and projects. We want to finalize the project prioritization, start developing project sheets for those high priority projects, like I mentioned, 20 projects. And then we're going to do our 3rd set of our task force meeting and the public workshop. And the next workshop and the meeting will be reviewing these high priority projects and then looking at the draft plan. Oh, actually, before we move on, we understand there are people participating online. And so feel free, get your phone and use the QR code, and you will see sort of following the in-person workshop that we're having. For those of you here, we highly encourage you to participate in person. There's snacks out there, so don't leave until you take some cookies and eat some cuties. There's also water out there. With that, we thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Monique, for that presentation, and Director Noah. Commissioners, do you have questions for staff in this?
Yeah, I guess when you get the data analysis, does it tell you like time of day when most accidents happen? Is it during rush hour, morning rush hour, afternoon, late at night?
Yes, all that data is included.
Where do you think the biggest, where all the problems lie?
Oh, spread out. It's all over the place.
Yeah, okay. And what do you think the cause is for, because I saw during the, it said the pedestrian is very equal on accidents that happen on an intersection and mid-block. Why do you think that is, or do you know? Do you have a guess?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, when we consider mid-block so the intersection is really looking at the intersection footprint and maybe 25 to 50 feet above. And, we see people walking across the street without, mid-block crossing type. So they're showing up as a mid-block, and, and that's why we need to do some traffic calming. We need to allow people to cross. We may put some RFBs to provide crossing opportunities, yeah.
So it's like jaywalking.
Yeah, but jaywalking, by the way, is legal. Now, there's no such thing called jaywalking. So we would have, as engineers and planners, we would have to come up with recommendations to really trying to prevent those. The safe systems approach is it doesn't matter whose fault it is, nobody should die or severely getting hurt, yeah.
Gotcha, okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for your presentation.
Of course.
Hi, Monique. I'm just curious, it probably has no bearing on the output here, but did you look into data that talks about people on the cell phone while getting in an accident, or breaking it down into demographics of age?
Yeah, so we do know the demographics of the age. We know driving under the influence, but unfortunately, when people are using their cell phone, it's hard to tell, right? If you get into a collision, police come, you're not gonna tell them, hey, I was not looking. So that's why that is not really well documented, sorry.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, this seems like a really cool opportunity for application of AI in terms of the analysis. Is it all being done manually at this point? Is there any AI?
For our project, no AI, because we've collected data from the Crossroad, from the police department, as well as Tim's, which is, a state kept data. What we do have, and Noah talked about a GIS viewer, we put all of the collisions, putting the years of the collision, the type of a collision, the violation codes, everything else, the travel speed, the bike lanes, you name it. We create a database for the city. So something you can toggle on and off and to see, okay, well, we implemented, if Noah keeps the viewer going, we implemented such countermeasure. So, the next year, do we still see collisions at those countermeasures, right? And so, it's a good way to track collision trend over time. But so far, we have not used AI to do that.
There's been some discussion on the truck route study or revisiting what is the appropriate truck routes. Are there any, that as well as some of the input from Planning Commission in our work session with City Manager a couple months ago was about signal operation integration, smart signals. You referenced it a little bit on some key corridors. Is there a reason why we're limiting it to key corridors? Is it just a cost issue? Maybe with that part of it, as well as different truck routes, and what are the appropriate streets for certain types of traffic? Maybe that ultimately changes, and maybe there's some.
You want to take it first?
First, I think most of if you look at the high injury network, most of those are within those corridors, those highly traveled corridors like Sanderson and Stetson, and of course Florida Ave, which is not the city's jurisdiction. But I think, we would want to focus on those. That's where I think a lot of the traffic and, they need to be coordinated. I think that would be safer for everyone on the roads. But of course, once, those are all done and we can continue, finding funding, and we could definitely look at some of the other collector and some of the smaller streets as well.
Yeah, I was thinking, Noah, I was just going to add, you will see signal recommendations. That could be coordination, that could be hardware, software. So that is part of the countermeasures, and that could be systemic, meaning that we're going to apply to all of the intersections. For example, do we still want to see permissive left turns? Meaning, right, how a vehicle turning left on a green ball and then through a vehicle coming, that's when the head-on could happen. So those are the things we are looking at, and then we'll be, arrange those into the order of high priority. But either way, even if you don't make to the top 20, these projects are going to be identified, and city can slowly implement over time. Mm-hmm. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it gets very complex when you start adding all of the different causal elements.
Yeah, that's why it's fun.
But yeah, I could. That's why I was like, oh, the AI, that would be a neat application for it. And so keep the GIS link there, because that's scalable and buildable through like a Power BI kind of application. But very cool. That's all.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. Us being Planning Commission and Traffic Commission, it's good to see something like this come to the table once in a while for us to talk about traffic. Vision Zero, is this a grant program that we were trying to obtain? What's this Vision Zero? What's I know we're trying to reduce fatalities, and some of them intersections we're going to require construction to reduce these fatalities, such as a left turn on a green, like Buena Vista and Stetson. You're lucky to get one car through there going south on Buena Vista, make a left on Stetson. It's just ridiculous there. And then there's other places, like by West Valley High School, that has a lot of reports as well, but intersections are very visible, very clear. It just would require more Hemet PD presence there to give citations and tickets. And with enough of those, people will start to have word of mouth and slow down and go through those intersections. So those don't require construction, they just require maybe more police presence. So with this Vision Zero, what, is this a grant program that we were trying to obtain and submit to the state, or?
Yeah, so Vision Zero is actually a term come from Europe, right? But we actually in the States, we start calling them safe systems because a lot of agencies be like, oh my gosh, Vision Zero, that's not possible ever. So the idea is really to achieve the safe system approach, meaning, as I mentioned, it doesn't matter whether it's a driver's fault, a pedestrian's fault, a cyclist's fault, a collision could not end up become a fatal or severe injury collision. So meaning, speed slows down, then your collision is going to be less severe. You had better dedications for each mode, like cyclists being in the bike lanes, pedestrians on the sidewalks, you have crosswalks highly marked. So those are the things we can do to really help to improve safety. I agree with you, not everything's going to be capital. That's why you're seeing that I mentioned on the top 20 project could be programmatic. Could be programmatic improvements, that could be enforcement or education. But the goal here is to reduce all severe and fatal collisions. In some cities that I work with, I've been working at this for more than 10 years now, some cities set a goal, say, hey, we want a Vision Zero by 2026. We're in 2026. I'm sure they have not achieved Vision Zero, but it's a goal. We want to have targets to get there. We may not, when we come back for a resolution, we may not say, okay, we want a Vision Zero or no fatal and severe by X amount of year. But what we want to do is implement that monitoring program year after year, and hopefully we see the collisions reduce.
So when again, is it for grants?
Yeah, it is a grant program. As Noah was saying, is $5 billion was allocated back in 2022. This is the last year of the grant cycle, and there's still about $1 billion left for this last cycle. So you're going to see both planning and implementation funded project, and it is it's a federal program.
So like we have like RENA numbers for housing, we have to give a projection. And so with this particular one, do we give like a 5-year projection to them with this grant program? Is it a 10-year? Are we breaking it down year 0 to 2? We want to reduce it by 10%, or how are we projecting this to the state?
So I would kind of separate the plan from being a grant program, because it's more of like kind of a framework and something that we can implement as a city. And it's not just one grant. There's multiple programs we can use this plan to chase grant money. It's going to be, we're going to look at ATP and HSIP, and SS4A is just one of those. And SS4A is the grant that we got to pay for preparing this plan. So I wouldn't say that and the Vision Zero is, it's a goal. It could be a lofty goal, but I think it's, kind of just the commitment of the leaders to say, we want no fatalities and no severe injuries in our city. And you may get there, you may not, but that's the goal.
Okay. And one other weird question, because it was in one of the statistics here, and I think we only have one in our valley, but roundabouts. What, in your knowledge, roundabouts, are they typically a safer approach? Should we be looking more into roundabouts when we develop communities? Or is there more accidents being caused by roundabouts?
Perfect question. It depends on how the roundabout is designed. If you have to design where the entry, or my firm does a lot of roundabout design, and so you want to make sure the entry speed, if you design right, it cannot exceed 15, 20 miles per hour. So the cars have to slow down in order to traverse through the roundabout. So if designed correctly, it definitely is a very much so effective traffic calming and collision reduce device. And plus, when the roundabout is smaller, pedestrian crossing distance is much shorter.
Okay, I was just curious.
And you will see on one of the boards sometime later, you see a roundabout there, because it definitely is on the table here as well.
I know there's a lot of communities here doing them, and I've been through them, and it's easy to navigate, so, okay. Any other questions for staff?
Except the 2-lane roundabouts. Those things are awful.
I've been in the one lanes.
There's one like right in front of Morongo when you get off the freeway. It's tough.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. I remember that.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna propose any of those,
Okay.
just baby steps.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys, for the presentation. And let's see here. Just receive and file, so we don't need to vote at this on. We just receive and file it. So, thank you very much.
Just
And
for,
then,
anyone in the public, we will have stations set up and we would love to receive feedback. Thank you.
thank you, Noah. And now we'll take department reports. City Attorney Leo Sawari, good to have you back.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing to report.
One moment, City Attorney, we do have a public comment for this item.
Oh.
A e-comment.
Let me open up for public hearing.
It was submitted by an anonymous resident, and would you like for me to read it so that we can have it on record?
It's a longer public comment, but I believe you probably should read it, Layla.
Layla?
We read it here, but
You-
she needs to make that public.
Yes, you could make it, it's up to the commission's discretion, or we keep it as the file for the record, so.
Well, we'll go ahead and have you read it, unfortunately. I mean, just for public record, just make sure that person's voice is heard.
Okay. The comment states, item 10B, the safety analyst report makes one thing obvious. Our current approach is not working. The data shows nearly 2,000 injury-related crashes in 5 years, but that number does not capture what happens on our streets every day. The report notes that darkness is a major factor in fatal pedestrian crashes, with almost 80% happening at night. But here is the reality. If a road is designed like a highway, people will drive it like a highway, no matter how many lights you add. I hope the commission will look beyond just lighting improvements. We need real traffic calming as part of the safe system approach. And we need to take a hard look at our intersections. The report highlights how dangerous permissive left turns are, especially on high-speed roads like Sanderson. A more straightforward fix would be converting more of those to protected left turn signals, so drivers have a dedicated green arrow instead of guessing when it is safe to go. Right turn on red is also a real problem. A statewide study from 2011 to 2022 found over 39,000 crashes and 217 fatalities from it in California, and more than half of those involved a pedestrian or cyclist. The commission should look into that. And then the sidewalks. I've lived here long enough to know that in the high-need areas, the report identifies the sidewalks are a mess. You've got people in wheelchairs and families with strollers forced into the street to avoid broken or non-existent sidewalks. You cannot walk down a street like Florida Avenue for too long without walking on an unmarked path or needing to cross the highway to get to a slightly better path on the other side. This happens not just on Florida Avenue, but all over town. That is not only a safety problem, it is a long-standing gap in basic infrastructure. Using the federal SS4A grant to build a continuous, reliable sidewalk network will make this a more functional city. I understand this is a work study item, so the commission is not taking a final vote tonight. But as you develop your input and prepare to recommend a Vision Zero policy to the City Council, please prioritize consistency and predictability over raw speed. Let us stop designing our streets mainly for through traffic and start building a city that is safe, acceptable, and efficient for every resident.
Thank you very much for that, Sharice. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close public comment and receive and file. All right, city attorney reports.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you very much. Community development reports, Director Monique.
Chair, I have nothing to report. Thank you.
How about future agenda items?
Yes, future agenda items include Palm Communities. They'll be coming back with a site development review modification at a upcoming Planning Commission meeting. We do have the Devonshire Avenue Skilled Nursing Facility Conditional Use Permit working its way through the review pipeline. There will be a Hemet Beautiful presentation provided to the Planning Commission at an upcoming meeting. Also, we will be bringing back a pro-housing designation program upon completion with working with WRCOG and PlaceWorks on a draft before presenting it to the City Council. Have Valle de los Tres Cerritos tentative track map 38979 coming before you for new residential development. The 2025 code cycle updates in pursuant to AB 306 in residential construction will be presented to you at an upcoming Planning Commission meeting, as well as the pre-approved ADU plans. We are, that is on the work plan to bring that back also to the Planning Commission at a future agenda. This concludes my future agenda items.
Thank you very much for that. And final, 11C, Commissioners' Reports. 11D for Commissioner Reports.
Yes.
Director Monique.
Commissioner Viramontes,
I have nothing to report.
Commissioner Hill,
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Monique, that staff presentations are really looking good and thorough. Appreciate that from you and your staff. It's really good to see. Thank you.
thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Vice Chair Worth,
Ditto on that, and also appreciate the very comprehensive meeting minutes. It's good to see that it's getting documented what we talk about. So thank you.
thank you.
Oh, and then just one other note to Noah's not here anymore, but on State Street, the McSweeney Farm signals are missing the reflective, and we had a power outage recently, and it was extremely obvious that they were not there or that the reflective was missing. So that is a very important. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. But yeah, just as those are relatively new as well. So I don't know if there's something that can be done on that, but.
Noted, yes. When we actually received the grant to put the reflective back plates on all the other ones, those weren't the cities yet, so they weren't included in the grant.
Gotcha.
Thank you for that. Chair Beamsterfer?
It's great to be back here again. And let me tell you, the sound system sounds amazing. I can hear everybody up here. So I'm really happy with the updates we have here. Let's see here. Riverside County Board of Supervisors approve a apartment complex building to be built on Columbia in between Florida and Acacia. It is going to contain, I believe it is 60-some units or 70-some units, but so we do have some newer apartments coming in as well. Let's see here. April 15th is tax day, just a friendly reminder. April 18th is the 12th annual Vintage Trailer and Car Show at the Golden Village RV. On April 30th, we have our second annual Hemet Regional Economic Summit at the Public Library. Tickets are available on Eventbrite. And then on May the 9th, we of course have our Murder Mixer at the Hemet Library, and we see Mayor Krupa back there. She can be one of the actors there. And tickets are available on Eventbrite as well. Let's see something else. I had my ribbon cutting here on the 27th, and I want to thank everybody, Commissioner Hill and Commissioner Worth and Mayor Krupa to show up and show support, as well as Jackie and Valerie and Joe. It was good to have everybody there to support, so I appreciate that, everybody showing up. And with that, I have nothing else to report. And with there being no further business to discuss, this meeting is being adjourned to next Planning Commission meeting scheduled for April 21st at 6 p.m. right here in our chambers.